Oklahoma City came to Salt Lake City with the best record in the NBA, the best defense in the NBA, the best differential in the NBA. Their defense only looked that great for a little while. That's all it needed to do. They thumped the Jazz and show us the highest standard of the NBA. It's next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Jazz fall to the Thunder tonight, 130-107. This is POSTCAST. Ron Bonne along with David Locke, the Utah Jazz radio team, bring it to you after every single Jazz game here on POSTCAST on Locked On Jazz. We'll break down the ball game, how it played out, why the Jazz got thumped, and give out our reliability pluses before the night is over. But let's start with Oklahoma City, Ron. They came in with all the accolades, 44-10, the number one defense in the league, sixth best offense. They've been playing very well recently, have the best differential of any team in the NBA history. Did they look that good?
They look good. They look experienced. They look together. They looked just like a championship basketball team. Offense is good, but what I was very impressed with is that even though there was times when they didn't have the size out there on the floor, on how they protected the paint.
Let's go to that stretch of the game, because that's where the game is determined. There's a stretch in the second quarter where, honestly, their defense was so good it looked like the Jazz couldn't get a shot off. The Jazz have a very good third quarter offensively. We'll touch on that. Jazz did some other things well. But in that second quarter, they clamped down defensively on the Jazz, and that was the Jazz veteran crew really that was on the floor at that point. And the Jazz, at one point, it felt like they had a hard time just getting a shot off in a possession.
And they've been there before. You know, Holmgren's played, what did he say, 13 games? So they've been there before without him. And then when they didn't say Hartenstein gets in foul trouble, now they have to go to a different lineup. So they've been there before. They know how to protect the paint. They know how to clamp down and make you have to earn every bucket that you get there in the paint.
The Jazz battled through that, had a very good third quarter offensively. I always get nervous when you're down 20, how much you attribute anything, but did you feel as though the Jazz got better at handling it, or Oklahoma City maybe let off the gas a little bit?
If you look at the numbers, they got better. But better meaning that Clarkson hit 2 back-to-back three-point shots, and all of a sudden they closed it to 14, 13, something like that. And then they lose it, that kind of thing. They got better as far as shooting the basketball, meaning they made some buckets and gave themselves a chance to close the gap there for a minute. But I don't think it was because of that. The Jazz shot 45% in the third and fourth quarter. Right. Their best quarters.
They shot 14 of 21 in the third quarter, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, 67%. They really
14 for 21.
Yeah, they really had a great offensive quarter against what was an elite defensive team.
Yeah, so it's they just shot the basketball well. That's about it. I don't think there was anything spectacular that they did, even though Keyonte looks very good right now.
So let's talk about that, because I thought that was the highlight of the night for the Jazz was Keyonte off the bench tonight, 7 of 12. 20 points. He had another 5 or 6 assists. He went to the line 3 times tonight, which is a little less than he has been going. But he looked very in control. This is how you want to see him come out of the break.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and I think the question would be, and probably could ask you this: you like him coming off the bench, or you prefer him to be the starter?
I think the issue is him as defensive commitment, not the offensive box score you and I just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we grab the box score because that's how they print it out. We don't get a defensive box score every night.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where Will wants him coming off the bench and at some point this year, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't start Collier and Clark and George to close in the final 15 games of the season or something. But for right now, the only thing I've questioned is I just think he looks so much better when he plays off the ball. When he comes in, his first substitution is for Isaiah. So he ends up playing point guard to start. And I sometimes wonder if he would be better off starting off the ball, gaining some confidence in that, because that seems to be where he's at best. And then when the second units are on the floor to open the second quarter, if he then would play, because he's got to play some point guard because we don't have enough point guards on this roster.
Okay, so here's another question for you there, David, because Springer, I thought, looked like a point guard. I thought he looked
that's interesting.
like he belongs.
I thought he looks like he belonged. I mean, it was funny. We had Springer on the floor. Jaden Springer, a new 10-day contract guy. He was the most. He's on a 10-day contract. He was the most experienced player on the floor at one point. He played 94 NBA games. It was the most of anybody who was on the floor, I think, for the Jazz, which tells you. So, yes, I mean, he's not. He was the 28th pick of a draft. He was a first-round pick. He played some in Philadelphia. He's played some in Boston. In that sense, I think he's pretty. Like he does belong. There's no question. I did not think of him as a point guard. I've actually thought of him as a defensive-minded shooting guard who hasn't shot well yet in his NBA career. He went to Tennessee for a year, shot it fine at Tennessee, shot free throws well at Tennessee. So it's surprising he hasn't shot well in the NBA. But he is. That's what I would think of him as. Is a shooting guard who hasn't shot it yet.
So, since I'm asking you all these questions, so Springer,
flip this around, huh?
You got Springer, and then you have who am I missing?
I don't know. You're asking the questions.
Oh well, he's
on
the
KJ Martin.
No, he's on the injured list.
Colin Sexton?
No.
Who are you asking me about? The mystery.
How can you not know?
I have no idea, Ron Bonne. Elijah Harkless?
Yes.
They're probably really similar.
You think?
I mean, they're both really physical, 6'4", 6'5" guards who can really defend. Neither of them I would think of as handling like a point guard. Maybe Jaden Springer has that. You've surprised me with that.
I think Springer's a better shooter.
Neither of them have shown the ability to shoot yet.
I would trust Springer's shot before I trust.
That feels like that's the right answer on that. Particularly Springer has, but Springer's college numbers at Tennessee, if I remember correctly, Jaden Springer's numbers are he goes 20 of 46 from three in 25 games. He, as a guard in college, he took 1.5 threes a game. That's not a lot.
Not a lot at all.
Right? So I'm not. You know what? Here's what the thing I'll tell you. In this day and age, you know what you're not going to get out of the G League or as a 10-day contract? Someone who can shoot.
Okay.
No, I mean, seriously, like, if you can shoot, you're on a roster in this day and age, right?
Yeah,
like, shooting's
true.
that important. By the way, Harkless in college actually took 396 threes in his 5 years playing in college. He made 31%, though. No, they're very similar. I mean, and that might be, go back to Will Hardy's comment he made pregame that the Thunder had a certain type of player that they were going to get. It's clear the Jazz maybe are looking for a certain type of player in this way. If you look at the three guys we've signed recently, Elijah Harkless, KJ Martin, and Jaden Springer, none of them can shoot it very well. That's why they're available. So that's the first thing. But they're all thick. They're all physically strong. They're all defensive-minded. They're all athletic. They're all tough. So that seems to be, like, if there's any recurring theme here of what Justin Zanuck and the Jazz front office is looking for. And then the question is, can you develop any of them into shooters? Like Aaron Wiggins wasn't quite the shooter when he first came out of Oklahoma, at least in my memory. And Oklahoma City has turned him into a shooter. Lou Dort wasn't much of a shooter when he came out of Arizona State, and they've turned him into a shooter. So can you get any of these guys to become shooters? Now, Aaron Wiggins now at this point is a career 39% three-point shooter. So he's a bona fide, big-time, legit shooter. When he played at Maryland, he was a 35% three-point shooter and took a lot of them. So he's at a far higher level now.
So what you have here, I think, in Harkless and Springer is that you beat me out. Does it boil down to a competition between those two?
For time, Springer's here for a 10-day contract, so you give him, he gets the time for the next 10 days.
Yeah.
Right? Like you signed him probably today. You probably netted that signature till today. And you signed him you give him the time for the next 10 days because that's all you have him for, possibly.
All
right. Walker Kessler, pretty good.
Really good. And seems to be getting better every game. Won't say better every game. we seem to expect what we're getting out of him every game because he has been very, very consistent at that.
Yeah, he's pretty much dominating. I mean, he's a force. Like, they really had to deal with him. I thought it was an interesting comment tonight from Mark Dagnall in the pregame, but Hertenstein, that he's able to go after the boards so much, it's opening up the boards for other people. I don't think the Jazz other players have figured out what Walker Kessler allows them to do on the offensive glass yet. But Walker's such a force right now on the glass, it's going to open up opportunities for other people.
Yeah. And I found it interesting that, Collins is a pretty consistent rebounder. He only had 3 rebounds tonight. And I don't know if it was because Walter was that dominant or the defense of the Thunder was keeping him from rebounding.
Yeah, Lowry had a tough night. Lowry was non-existent tonight. Well, he was existing. He took 14 shots. He made 2 of them. He only had 4 rebounds also. Right. So neither of those guys did much rebounding. All right, reliability pluses, Ron Boone.
Well, Walter Kessler for sure, and I'm going to go with John Collins. I'm going to go with Keyonte, and I'm going to go with Kyle.
Whoa! I'm super surprised. That's all you. I was super surprised you went to Kyle, but that's fine.
Kyle,
I'm not. I don't have a problem with it. I thought you were going to some other player at that point.
Like who?
Your boy Jaden Springer.
Why?
Because you liked him so much.
No.
And he made an impact in a short amount of time.
Well, he did, but no. I think I'm looking at right now. Kyle has gotten so much better and trustworthy, I think, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
So, got to give him some props.
By the way, cool moment on the floor right now. The Williams brothers, Danny Ainge is down there. Mark Dagnall was there for a little bit. Mom and Dad are there as well in their split jerseys.
They're going to go out on the floor and
I think maybe I think it might be Cody's sister, I think, is there as well. She's a little bit of a hooper herself. Mm-hmm. So they're all out taking some pictures. Danny just stopped by to say hi to the families. So cool little moment down there on the floor.
Okay, before we sign off here, my nephew, who officiates high school basketball in Phoenix, did officiate all of those games.
Perry High School?
Yeah, their games. Yeah, he officiated them throughout their career.
But Dad's beard is kind of awesome.
You think?
Yeah, he's got a big beard. Look at that. That's nice people. That's some work. All right. That wraps us. We'll be back tomorrow.
Houston Rockets.
And the latest update on the Houston Rockets is they're still playing basketball right now. They lead at 117-110 with 48 seconds left. So that's be a good win for them. Thanks very much for tuning in. This has been POSTCAST.